joining this opportunity day this afternoon. We have a number of colleagues from Artif joining online. Today we'll be sharing our full year 2025 earning results. We'll take you through some of the key highlights of our performance for 2025. Before we do that, we wanted to also share with you all the impact of the flooding that RDI saw in November, December last year, and some of the efforts that Artif as a corporate citizen made in the south of Thailand, in RDI, in addition to supporting our over 800 associates in RDI and surrounding provinces. Artif was also actively involved in working with affected communities in RDI and other provinces to support, to provide some immediate relief support in the city, in RDI itself, and also some of the other provinces. Here you can see some of the pictures of some of the efforts that we made. On the left, you can see some of the tangible numbers, how Artif had helped our own associates and also a community at large. So we'll also take this opportunity to share a quick video clip summarizing some of the impacts and how Artif had assisted the community in the process.
ในปี 2025 ภาคใต้ต้องเผชิญกับมหาอุทกภัยครั้งใหญ่ ร้านค้าได้รับผลกระทบในหลายพื้นที่ ทำให้ต้องปิดกิจการ มันคืออุปสรรคครั้งใหญ่ สำหรับเราวิกฤตไม่ใช่เหตุผลที่จะหยุด แต่คือสัญญาณให้เราก้าวไปข้างหน้าทันทีผูกพัน
Thank you. Let's quickly look at our NARTD industry for 2025. On the left, as you can see there, in the south of Thailand for full 2025, the NARTD value increased by 1%, which was significantly less than the prior year growth of almost 9%. When we look at that overall figures, as you can see there in the narrative, total Thailand had experienced a decline of 2.2% in the NARTD market value during the year, whereas South Thailand had an increase of 1%. That means the NARTD category in the south of Thailand performed better than the rest of Thailand. If you look at that overall category growth of 1% in south of Thailand, that's the territory for Artif. Within that, sparkling had a decline of 2.3%. The main category that had increased was drinking water, which grew by almost 6%. So basically, when you look at that, total south of Thailand had a decrease of 2.3% in the sparkling compared to the last year growth of almost 9%. So on the right, because of the decline in the sparkling category in which Hartip has a significant share leadership, because of the category mix issue, our total NARTD share for Hartip for full year at end of last year was 23.2%. Next. So this is a summary of our operating results for 2025. In terms of the volume, we delivered 73 million unit cases during the year. That is a growth of 0.7% versus prior year. Within that, the domestic sales in our territories was 66.3 million cases, and made-to-order sales to Thailand was quite high last year of 6.7 million cases. So as we saw in the previous narrative, our market share in sparkling continues to be at a solid position, around 78.2% for the full year. And then the total outlets were able to sustain that at around 56,000. In terms of some of the key metrics that we monitor, zero sugar category continues to be our area of focus, and we were able to grow the sales by 4% when the total business had a smaller growth. With that, our total sugar portfolio contributes to around 5% mix in the total cola segment, and there is a room for us to continue growing that segment. So when you look at our channel performance, the Horeca, which is hotel, restaurant, and cafe, had an increase of 10%. Traditional trade, which is a very important channel for us, grew by 4%. Modern trade grew by 1%. In terms of cooler, we continue to place between 2,000 to 3,000 coolers in the marketplace in the past couple of years. So this year in 2025, we increased our total cooler population by around 13% to 20,000 coolers. Compared to a total outlet base of 56, we are around 40% of the outlets had Coca-Cola branded coolers. So there is a continuing opportunity to work for us in the next few years to place more coolers in the market. In terms of net financial results, we grew our revenue 1.6%, and that also with a GP margin, gross profit margin improved from 42% last year to 42.7%. Net profit declined to 568 million baht. You will see in the next page that includes some of the one-off items that we had to record during the year, and net profit margin was around 7%. Next. So here's a bit of details in our financial performance by key line items. As you can see there, our domestic sales had a decline of 3.6%. The overall NARTD market in 2025 remained quite soft, especially in the Q2. It was very, very soft, and we started to recover in Q3. Then in Q4, we were impacted by the flooding. So overall resulted in a net sales revenue volume declining by around 3.6%. As I mentioned earlier, the made-to-order sales to Thailand increased by almost 3 million cases during the year. That resulted in total volume growing by 0.7%. With that volume growth, we delivered a revenue growth of 1.6%, meaning that we have a positive price mix of around 0.9% during the year. Gross profit grew by 0.3%, mainly impacted by the phase 4, which is the last phase of sugar tax in Thailand that started in Q2 last year. So we were able to mitigate a significant portion of that sugar tax increase through a number of initiatives, including commodity price savings and also some of the efficiencies measure. and at the end, we deliver gross profit growth of 0.3%. In the percentage, as you can see below, in the gross profit margin, we are able to maintain around 42.2% for the year. In the SG&A, our SG&A grew by 2.5%, mainly driven by increased distribution cost, and also we had to increase our sales and marketing expenses in the second half to boost some of the weaknesses we saw in the market conditions. As you can see there, you will see the line loss of asset impairment, 16 million baht. That is a non-recurring one-off expense we had to record in 2025 financial, resulting from transition of the glass business line as we were completing the installation of the new glass line in the past 2 years in Phnom, that resulted in some of the unused assets and equipment to be impaired in our RDI facility that had housed the very old machine during the past few years. So some of the highlights in our revenues, as you can see there on the left, we had a number of value price promotions to boost our sales during the year. One of the key, let's say, the introduction that we had was the RGB. We improved the sales of RGB 300 milliliter package. Also, we introduced 250 milliliter PET packages in zero segment, and also original test formulation at price point of 10 baht during the years. That is also something that is helping us to address some of the affordability issues that we are seeing in the market. On the left below, you can see some of the value enhancing promotions that were quite successful to help us to improve our sales trend. That included providing some noodles promotions with our 1 liter package. And also what was very, very successful was the glass, tumbler glass promotion, Bell glass promotion, where we are giving one Coca-Cola branded Bell glass to the customers when they buy a large pack of 1.25. On the right, you can see a continuing trend of our revenue growth from 6.5 billion in 2021. Last year, we recorded sales of 8.3 billion baht. And in the below, you can see some of the information on the contribution of the revenues by brand and packaging. Overall, remains pretty much similar to what was a trend last year, with Coca-Cola contributing around 68% of the total mix, followed by Fanta, Sprite, and then Namti. On the package, we had some increase in the RGB and non-RGB package contribution as a result of installing a new line in Phnom. With that, PET continues to remain at a higher contribution at 79%, followed by cans at 16%. Some of the financial highlight, as you can see there, gross profit was 3,481 million baht, and below you can see the gross profit margin trend. As I was mentioning earlier, we're able to mitigate a significant portion of the phase 4 sugar tax impact during the year. Net, we delivered a gross profit level of 42.2%, which is in line with our mid to long-term projections of continually delivering gross profit margin in the range of 40 and above. The SG&A expense for the year grew by 2.5%, which is 34.4% of the revenues, which is higher than previous year, mainly driven by some increases, plus our revenues being softer, so that our absorption of the fixed cost was below than what we had expected. Net profit was 568. That included one-off item that was shared in the earlier page, and that meant a net profit margin of 7% for the year. Some of the balance sheet highlight, increase of around 500 million baht was basically from the investment in our new class operations. And then also at the same time, we are expanding our warehouse space and also some of the infrastructure upgrade in Phnom Penh plant. So that was the result of the increase. That was mainly financed by a combination of long-term borrowing and some short-term borrowing during the year. Cash flow at end of the year, we were 232 million baht. That made up of net cash from operating activities of over 1 billion baht, of which 784 was used in investing activities, mainly related to the completion of the glass line and also some of the infrastructure upgrade that I was mentioning. Net cash used in the financing activities was negative 100, which was basically the dividend payments that we made during the year, financed by some of the borrowings that we had with the banks. In the next page, some of the other key ratios in our balance sheet. Return on asset and return on equity was slightly below the past 2 years level, driven by the recent investments in the capacity and infrastructure expansion during the year. Debt to equity ratio has increased to 0.85 due to the increase in the bank financing, and our interest-bearing debt was at 0.35. On the right, the activity ratios, our overall cash cycle days remains within the range of the mid to long-term target of 30 days. As you can see there, the inventory and the average collection period and also payment period have been pretty much in line with the trend that we are seeing in the past 2-3 years, and that will continue to be our area of focus going forward as well. Interest coverage was, because of the interest expense in some of the long-term loans, was at 18 times for the year. So in terms of the shareholder dividend return, you can see our dividend payout and the ratios for the past 10 over years. For this year, subject to AGM approval next month, our proposed dividend is to maintain a 70% dividend payout of the EPS, of which a portion, which is 0.45 Thai baht, was paid in September as interim dividend, and subject to AGM approval next month, we are going to propose the final dividend payment of 0.54 baht in May of this year. So lastly, in terms of the new products that we have launched in the past few months, worth mentioning the Monster, which is a energy drink, and this one we are in the exploration stage at this point in time. In the past 2 months, we have launched this product with the importation from Malaysia in our CVS or 7-Eleven channel. We are seeing a good trend, good response from the consumers. We do have this product in 2 variants with sugar, less sugar, and also 0 sugar on Ultra. So these are doing quite well, ahead of our expectations for the past 2-3 months. So we are working to expand this product offering in other channels as we speak. And we expect that this will help us to drive or improve our revenues this year. Also, some of the flavor extension Fanta pineapple has been launched in some of the channels. So we are looking at expanding that in other remaining channels as well. So that's what we have to share for our last year performance and also some of the new products that we are introducing in the marketplace. Thank you.
ค่ะต่อไปเป็นคำถามนะคะคำถาม Right now we have 8 questions.
Sure.
Yes. The first one. เหตุใด made to order sale ถึงเพิ่มขึ้นเยอะครับ Why have made to order sales increased so much this year?
Yeah, good observation. The made-to-order sales to Thailand were driven by some specific pack. The one that was the main driver was purchase of small size PET, 250 milliliter PET by Thailand as they were also launching that product into their territories during the year. We expect that to be lower than last year, this year, as they are completing installation of that capability or capacity in their own production facilities.
ค่ะ So the next one สงครามตะวันออกกลางมีผลกับ HTC มากน้อยแค่ไหน To what extent has the Middle East conflict affected HTC?
Yeah, I mean, we are seeing the impact of the Middle East conflict in few areas. One, we're still monitoring on a regular basis is the impact of that situation in our cost of goods sold, mainly in the cost trend of the resin and the empty cans. So we are monitoring that very closely. We are starting to see some of the impacts in the past couple of weeks. Secondly, we have to see how that will impact in terms of the fuel prices. We know that the Thai government has put certain measures in place. We are yet to see what that impact would be in terms of the price trend. The third element is what impact it may have, if any, in the number of tourist inflow. That is something we are cautiously monitoring and watching.
What is the company's projected sale mix for zero sugar products as a percentage of total revenue over the next 2 to 3 years?
Well, I mean, our midterm in the next couple of years would be to try and reach around 10% of the mix. It is a challenging task in the next few years. Currently, it's around 5%. This year, we are looking at between 6 to 7%. And this is one area where we see a continuing opportunities in terms of improving our distribution coverage, and also expansion of some of the product offering. So this will continue to be one major area of focus and hopefully the sources of growth for us.
Okay. The next question relating on the risk management. What are the main drivers and risks that management anticipated for 2026, and how might they affect revenue and profitability?
Yeah, very important and a big question. I think we briefly covered earlier that how long that the Middle East crisis or the war will last. That's something that we don't know. I think there are not many clear indications of how long it may last and in what form it may end. That is something we are watching very carefully, and this impact into our cost input, as I mentioned earlier. Second one is what could be the impact of the tourism resulting from this conflict. I think the other element is, the weather pattern. Generally, we expect the weather in the next few months to be warmer than last year is what the projection has been. But something we will continue to monitor is, the situation of the flooding and so on that we don't know. However, we'll be anticipating that and building a mitigation plan as we progress during the year.
The next one. Could you please briefly summarize the overall picture of 2025, highlighting which aspects of the company's performance were in line with the expectations and which were not?
Yeah, Good question. Our performance was below the expectations. Some of the drivers were softness in the revenue and the consumption in the second quarter of last year. And not only in Thailand, we saw that softness in our beverage industries in many countries within the region. So that was the softness. It started to improve in the third quarter. We were quite hopeful that quarter four could be much stronger than what we reported. However, unfortunately, the flooding situation in REI did impact our revenues for the last 2 months of the year. Not only that, we had to refocus our energy and effort to help the impacted associates and also working very closely with the community, including our customers, to work with them to help reopen their businesses. That's where Hardeep was very active and still is active in the past few months to work with the outlet, support them in the reopening efforts of the outlets. And we are seeing a good recovery of those impacted outlets in RDI. I mean, tourists are starting to come back. So we expect that the recovery would be smooth and on a continual basis. So, I mean, overall, our revenue growth was impacted by what we just mentioned, that was below expectations. What we were able to mitigate, as I highlighted, was to manage the impact of significant cost increase from the sugar tax increase in the phase 4 of last year. They were in excess of 150 million baht for the year, but we were able to mitigate a significant portion of that through a number of measures, including efficiencies, managing some of the costs, and so on. And operating expenses were within the range in terms of growth. However, when revenues did not realize as a percentage of revenues, that is a bit higher than what we would have expected.
Okay. So for the next one, from 2026 now, we back to how does the company assess the impact of the situation in the Middle East on tourist arrival to south of Thailand? And to what extent has this affected or will be affected to the company sale in its key tourist area?
Yeah, I mean, tourism is an important element in our business. Also, sure, it is for Thailand as well. I mean, the government estimates that over 15% of the GDP is dependent on the tourism business. Similarly, our business, we estimate that between 15 to 20% of the overall consumption is tourism dependent, not meaning to say that those are the consumption by tourists, but impacted by tourists directly and indirectly is what we think is around 15 to 20%. No hard data, but that is our estimate from different sources. So tourism is very important element in our business, and will continue to be so. For the past 2 months, Thailand reported a decline in the overall tourist arrival by around 4%, I believe. So we have to keep monitoring that and have a mitigation plan in place in terms of how we address and how we can compensate some of those impacts from tourism arrival.
Yeah. For the next question, it could be คุณเพลินพันธ์นะคะไม่ทราบว่าคู่ค้าของเราที่จ่ายเงินล่าช้าใน Q4 68นี้เคลียร์จบหรือยังครับ Has the account trade receivable who delay payment in Q4 2025 settle the outstanding amount yet คุณเพลินพันธ์ค่ะ
สำหรับเคสนี้คือทางลูกค้าทางคู่ค้าเองก็คือยังมีการทยอยผ่อนชำระกับทางบริษัทอยู่ค่ะก็คือเคสนี้ยังไม่จบค่ะ
And then for the next question is about long-term vision. so เป้าหมายรายได้และส่วนแบ่งการตลาดในปี 2027 และปี 2032 มีการปรับหรือคงเดิมครับ Have the revenue and market share targets for 2027 and 2032 been revised or remain unchanged?
Yes, we are currently working on updating those ambitions. As a result of how 2025 and 2026 close in terms of the revenues, trend, and market leadership position. We are working on that, and we will be sharing that in due course. Overall, we see that we need to revise that in line with the current trend, and what exactly that new ambition is, we'll share that in due course.
So there's no more question for now. Would you like to leave some guidance or something for the investor?
Thank you for your questions. I think very good questions, and we're happy to again hear any feedback or any comments that may be there. Happy to entertain that. If you have any further questions, please do reach out to us. Pananyani is the first point of contact for any further questions or comments that you may have. In the past, initially for this year, we are seeing improving trend in the revenue realization and growth, again, subject to how the current conflict in the Middle East and the impacts, how that impacts will be in the next couple of months. We are watching that cautiously. We are going to try our best to deliver improving trend in the revenues and overall results in the next few months to come.
ค่ะก็ไม่มีคำถามแล้วนะคะถ้ามีคำถามเพิ่มเติมส่งอีเมลมาได้ที่ ir@hattip.com ได้เลยค่ะ
Thank you so much for attending the session today and look forward to the next session. สวัสดีครับ
ขอบคุณค่ะ